Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at THECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hello, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guests may not represent those of the host or the station. Folks, you're going to want to listen to this podcast because you're going to have two Jersey girls here kicking it up. My guest is very extra special to me because we went to high school together. Yes, we go back that far. And I just love my classmate. She is an inspirational woman. Her stories are phenomenal. I interviewed Barbara Oxenham almost 2 years ago about her daughter, Cambry. Check out that podcast, Cambry's, and check out the book, Cambry's Story. Barbara wrote another book about her handsome son. Her son's name is Bryant Oxenham. Barbara is author of Cambry's Story and Bryant's Story. It's Bryant's story, my son's life story, his struggles, his death by heroin/fentanyl, and his amazing connection after. I have to tell you, folks, you're going to want to stay tuned to this podcast and hear a mother's story. I want to tell you, you need to go on Amazon. It's an e-book. It is short. It is powerful. It is raw, and it's to the point. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is phenomenal. And if we get emotional here, well, that's the way it is. And I dedicate this podcast in memory of Bryant Oxenham because Bryant put Barbara and I together, and I'm going to tell you how. I read the obituary of Bryant, and yes, I do read obituaries, and I said I have to contact Barbara. Now, unfortunately, I must have not have seen Cambry's obituary in the paper, but I saw Bryant. So I want to thank Bryant right now for connecting us again. I want to welcome Barbara Oxenham, my former classmate, to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you, Betsy. I'm very happy to be on your show.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we do go way back. And guess what? It's angel number 1111 right now, so they're in on it too.
Yes, I had to have you on, Barbara, and it's really, I just admire you for being so courageous and brave. And I know it has to take a lot to write stories about your children, and I'd like to know, or you could tell the audience, I know, but you could tell the audience, what motivated you to write Bryant's story?
Well, I was always a very fair parent, and I started to write Cambry's story, and then Bryant passed, and I was, in the middle of writing her story, and I was like, oh, my God, now what do I do? Do I write his story separately, or do I combine this book and put him in it? Because I was already on track to write hers. And, I asked people, and the general consensus was that I should do 2 separate books. And I knew I wanted to get the word out, for him too, that, these kids were great kids. They came from good lives. They had a lot of, good times in their lives, and they reached a lot of goals, and they had futures. And it's just, horrible how addiction and mental health can take them over, and, the ending was not good. So I wanted to get the word out, against the stigma about overdose and heroin and fentanyl and all that. And, the stigma about mental health, and that they were struggling and they were good kids.
Yes, you bring up a very important point, Barbara, that the stigma, there's still much stigma about mental health and addiction, and people tend to judge, well, how do they become addicted, or how do people from, kids from good families become addicted, and they try to...
She must have done something wrong,
Yes, I was still going to say, try to... Guilt. Yes.
I never got those words. I'm sorry, Betsy. I never got those words from anyone, thank God. But I get the vibes. I'm a very empathic. I wouldn't say I'm real psychic, but I do have a little psychic abilities, and I'm just tuned in so much to people, and like they don't even have to say anything, and I know what they're thinking. You know what I mean? And you feel that. You feel the negative vibes, and you know that, they're just thinking, oh, yeah, she must have did something wrong. Her kid overdosed. Yeah. The other one, killed herself. There's a lot of negative things, that you feel, but thank God I never got the words, because then I would have let them have it. But
Yes. I want to tell the audience, because this is worldwide. It's a worldwide problem. Don't judge.
Definitely.
Do not judge anyone. It could happen to anyone. Look, I just heard this morning, Naomi Judd, killed herself. A successful woman, a talented woman. You had beautiful children, good kids, good family. It happens. It just happens. We need to stop the stigma and the judgment. And Bryant's story, I cried through the book, and I also laughed at the funny stuff, but the struggles. Now, Bryant was a good student, and he
amazing.
was in college, right? And somebody gave him a pain pill.
Yeah.
And this is how Bryant started.
Yeah, well, he was in a lot of, he was very into quads and dirt bikes, and, he was very physical and wild out there and on those things. And he had a lot of accidents, too, and, but he would always get up and walk away and say, I'm all right, I don't need a doctor, I'm okay, so you figure, well, he's walking away, everything seems all right, and me being a nurse, I would check him neurologically and do the whole check thing and say, okay, he seems fine. But, in the long run, we did find out that he had old fractures in his neck, and they were all fused together. So he actually broke his neck. And
oh my.
He pushed beyond that. Like, you wouldn't even know it. But that's probably why he had all the pain and, in college trying to read and his head down a lot. So I guess he brought it up to his friend, his roommate, and, he said that he was in a lot of pain. It was just one of his roommates, not his best friend. But he offered him an oxy, and then that's how it all began. And I think the reason, you become addicted to things like that if you take them too much. But he knew about addiction. He knew that his friend had an addiction problem to it, and he was fighting to get off it. So he always thought he was so strong, and he was, he was a big guy and physical, and actually his name meant strong rock. So I think I always told him that, and that was in his head, that, I'm strong, I'm a rock, I can beat anything, nothing's going to bring me down. And eventually it did. It led to the heroin, and then he just got that one bad dose of heroin and fentanyl, and it took him out.
And that's all it takes, and that's all it starts with is that one pill. You know, people think, oh, you know, if I take this one pill, that's okay. I won't get addicted to it. And you do become addicted. And now, these days, people are, especially young kids, are getting these drugs from people, and who knows what's in it. I heard of a story, this young girl, she didn't have any drug problem. Somebody offered her something for pain. She took it, and it was had fentanyl in it.
Yep. And you know what? I wouldn't
died.
even trust weed today unless you go to a medical place, because they can put it in that too. You know, they can put it in anything. I mean, I would not trust any outside source of drugs. It's just too risky, and people should really be careful.
Yes. Yes,
I know a lot of people like marijuana, and you know they're all for that, and I have nothing against it if you know it helps people with their pain or whatever. But if you're going to a street source, you're totally wrong. You're totally at risk, and you totally should not do that.
True, because who knows what's in it now?
Just saying, because it could be in that too.
Yes, that's true. I've heard that too, Barbara. You don't know what you're getting now on the streets, not like the old days.
When my son died, the night that he went out, you know, that's another whole story. It was his money for his birthday that we gave him at the rehab. We had the meeting, and they said that they thought he was ready and it was okay for him to go out for his birthday. And we were hesitant to give out any money, so I only gave him $40 because I knew that if he did get any heroin, you know, if he did sidetrack, that would never kill him because he was used to like a $150 habit a day. And, you know, he had to have the money, the train money to get there and get back, so that would leave him with less. So he would really not have much money to do anything. But I did tell him that there's fentanyl in the heroin, which he knew. His cousin died of that. But, you know, he still chose to detour. He didn't go on his little birthday thing, and his friend, you know, was waiting for him to show up for that. He did not go. He ended up sidetracking and going and getting heroin, and it ended up having fentanyl, and that's how he died. And what I'm saying is he did not listen. He did not care that he could have died. So part of me wonders, did he even care about his life anymore at the end, you know? Because I know he was really upset about his sister's death, and he felt like part of that was him to blame because he was supposed to be home checking in on her, and he was supposedly clean. And when we went to a christening, he ended up going out and getting heroin, and she probably died while he was out getting it.
So he felt guilt probably from that and had post-traumatic from that.
And, of course, when I got home and saw him high, and then I went in her room and found her dead, of course, you know, I just was like, why weren't you here? You know, you don't think. You just go off on the kid because you're just so pissed off that he went out and got high, and here's your other kid dead. And I think that traumatized him too, which also gave me a lot of guilt. But I could go on and on and on with the guilt and the, you know, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Didn't.
Right,
so what the hell am I going to do now? Nothing. It's already over.
Right.
But all us moms have that, you know. All us moms of kids that were addicts and died of overdose, we all have that same thing that, you know, what could we have done different, or we should have done this, or we could have done that, you know, and it's all bullshit, really. They just made bad choices, and that's what happens.
Yes, and, you know, in the end, it's their choice. You know, you took your children for help. You took your children for counseling.
Oh,
it's not like
God.
you didn't, Barbara. You did. You spent, you know, time.
9 years of that shit. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. 9 years of that non-sugar stuff.
You know, it just happens. It's their choice. You know, they chose that, and you know, I don't know. I won't say I know how you feel. I don't know how you feel I just think mothers normally actually always feel guilty about something. I know caregivers do.
Oh, yeah.
And, what could we have done different? And if we had done this and if we had done that, you could drive yourself insane with it.
Oh, yeah.
How did you notice? Can you tell the audience, how did you notice that Bryant was addicted to drugs? Did he come and tell you?
Well, the problem
or did
was
you just
he was
notice
away
changing?
at college, so I didn't really notice. And then, he did have a moodiness even in high school. I mean, he just was like that, It's like if things didn't go his way, you get all crabby or whatever. But, I just figured that was his personality. And, hormones or whatever surging here and there. But when he was in his 20s, he started getting, worse. And, like sometimes he would just get angry for no reason. And then I was like, I don't know, he might be bipolar. So, we did talk to the doctor about it. And he was on meds, she was on meds, They were both bipolar. He was bipolar 2, which is a lesser version of it. And she was bipolar 1, which is, she had more manic episodes. But the way I found out that he was addicted was when his friend told me that one of his $100, his check was missing, and it was for $100, and that Bryant wrote it out. So when we approached him, then he told us he had a problem.
And in the book,
and then we got him help right away.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then Bryant was also, that's okay, Bryant was also stealing from you.
Oh, yeah.
From your family.
Well, yeah. In the beginning, he didn't, and then later, it just got to be like credit card charges, or we'd buy him, I bought him all this clothes for one interview, I bought him new shoes, a new suit, like all kinds of stuff because, that one's outdated. I need better shoes. These aren't good. Look at this. Look at the soles. Went and bought all this stuff. I actually remember that day, like we were walking together in Penny's, and I was actually excited for him because I knew he was, getting his life together. He's going on an interview, and he's going to be doing good. And he ended up selling all that stuff, trying to return it so that he could get the money for drugs. But little did he know that it was on my credit card, so they contacted me, and, there's a whole thing about that. And I'm thinking maybe I should have pressed charges, but I didn't. But that was just one episode.
And in the book...
Later...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, later, he had gotten to the point where he was stealing checks from my business. And we were almost bankrupt. I had a pet sitting business at the time. And I had my big payroll employee checkbook, payroll sheets and my payroll checkbook. And we're looking through it because the bank came up with, all these checks. And when I looked through it, I was like, oh, my God. There's like this one missing, that one missing, this one missing. Going through the pages, and further down there's one. He just pulled checks from all different spots of the book and was using them for drug money. And I kept getting bounced, like saying my account was overdrawn and this and that. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then we figured it out. And that's when he screamed at him, and I think he kicked him out or whatever. It's hard for me to remember. I had to go through a timeline for the book, but it's really hard for me to remember exact dates and.
Yeah, you don't have to know the exact dates of the book.
Yeah, what sequence that they were all in.
Yeah, no, we don't have to worry about dates here. I do remember in the book that you talked about you were in a car with Bryant, and he became very angry, and you were scared.
Oh my God, that was on our vacation. It was so frightening to me, and I don't even know if people read that how they interpreted it, like if I was psycho, or like a psycho mom, or if they understood it. But the thing was that I know he was a race car driver. He raced a lot, and he had the ability to handle a car, but I still did not like being the passenger in any of that, and it was not at the racetrack. It was coming out of the hotel, and it was in Pennsylvania in the Poconos. So the whole way getting out was all winding roads, and he just floored it, and he kept laughing, and I was frightened for my life. And then he got angry with me, and he punched me in the arm. And when we went through the town, and there was a police officer crossing people, and I screamed out the window, "Help!" Because at the time, that's how I felt, like I needed friggin' help. It was just horrible. It was like a nightmare.
And then, how many years? Oh, go ahead.
No, and then, we ended up at the gas station, and when he went in, that's when I followed, and I yelled out to the guy behind the counter, to call the police, I need help, and they just ignored me. They thought I was nuts, I think. And then some of the biker guys in there were, ready to pounce on him. I was like, no, I don't want him hurt. He needs help. And they're saying, dude, it's your mama, They were just saying all kinds of things like that. And then he screamed at me, and then I didn't really want to get back in the car, but I was so afraid, being a mother lioness, I was so afraid for his life that I took my chance and got back in just to get him home, back to the hotel safely. So, that was another fear all the way home, because he's cursing at me and yelling at me and saying, why did you do that? You almost got my ass kicked, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you've been through so much, you and Peter. How many years was Bryant addicted to drugs? 9 years.
He got addicted to oxys in 2009, and then 2014, he just couldn't keep up with the cost of the oxys. Sometimes they were $80 a pill, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then he ended up switching to heroin because I guess all his addiction buddies or whatever said, it's a lot cheaper, you should do that. So he switched to heroin in 2014. I didn't know that until I saw him in action in the house, and I was like, no, this is not oxys. This is something way off. When he was mashing together all kinds of food out of the fridge and kneading it like it was dough and just putting more different things in it and mixing it and taking a spoon and gulping it. And I was like, Bryant, what are you doing? Ugh. Anyway, and that's when I knew, that something was off. And then the next day when he was sober, awake, we approached him on it, and he told us. And I don't know. There was just so many rehabs he went to, and it wasn't always easy to get him in a rehab, so a lot of it was outpatient stuff. But psychiatrist.
Because Bryant was an adult, he was over the age of 18.
Yeah,
did they allow you to be involved? Right.
Well, a lot of them, no. It was so annoying because, one thing about him that was better than with Cambry is Cambry right from the forefront, no, my parents don't have any say-so. I don't want them to have, you know what I mean? And she wouldn't sign for us to have any say-so. So a lot of when I took her for one of her meetings, and I knew she was already drinking, and I'm like, I don't understand why they don't pick up on this, or if they do, they're not saying anything. But it's so hard because you don't get any feedback. That is so wrong. If your kid is like that, and especially if they're living with you, why can't the parent be notified or have any say-so? They treat you like you're friggin' nobody, and I really hated that. I really, really hated that because I pushed the door down on her, one of her, meetings with the psychiatrist. I just shoved the door in, and I barged in, and I said, she drank alcohol today. She is drunk right now. You have to be aware of this. And the psychiatrist just looked at me and didn't say anything, and I had to, then of course whoever was working there pulled me out of there. But it's like you're a lioness, but you can't get anywhere.
I have to ask you this, Barbara, because I'm just curious, because I always talk about getting power of attorney. If you had power of attorney, would they then tell you information? If you had that?
Maybe. I mean, I guess, but oh, great, somebody's calling. Sorry, it's all right. It's just more drama going on in my life now with my mother-in-law's stepson. She passed away, and there's problems with him now.
Yes.
So they're calling me, but I'll just ignore it. I'll call them back.
I read that on your page. Because I
had a feeling they were going to interrupt.
Because I tell people, and I recommend that when your child is 18, that they should get a power of attorney. But that's kind of hard. People don't think about that when their kid is 18, or an 18-year-old doesn't think about that. But
how do you get it unless the doctor says that, right?
Well, you could go to a lawyer, make up a will, and get the power of attorney. And so I was just wondering with that, because I went to a lawyer.
Is that power of attorney, or is that like being their surrogate?
No,
I don't know what it is.
The power of attorney. And then there's, being the guardian, and then there's the conservatorship.
Yeah, the legal guardian.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that. That you have to go to court for. Power of attorney, you just go to the lawyer. And I think that they should tell the parents about that, and because you need to know, and your child better than anybody. Let's face it. We know our children, we know our spouses better than anyone.
Well, I did get called in with some of the psychiatrists and some of the counselors. Like, they did call me in to get info, but then they got the info that they needed from me. And then when I wanted to have something to say, it's like sometimes they would listen, but they couldn't talk back. That was like the thing. They could listen to you, but they can't talk back. So you don't know where the hell you are if you got, if you got through, or, they're working on it, or we don't know anything. But what I liked about his last group that he was in before he died was that they called you in, and they did discuss things with you, and they included you, and that was Princeton, behavioral health. They were really good. I'm not blaming any of them for his death, but they did, suggest that he was ready. He was at the end of the program, and that he was ready to go out with his friends and have a little birthday time, and it should be okay. How do you know unless you try? You don't know.
Right.
So I hesitated, and then we thought, maybe we should just let him. And then I should have went with my gut, because that's when he died. But they even called us in after that and, sat with us and talked to us. And they were very good about it, and they felt very remorseful. And I was like, look, it's not your fault. You were right. How do you know unless you try? We always try. It never worked. Unfortunately, this time it really never worked. It really didn't work. But.
Right. And Bryant was off of the fentanyl, the heroin, when he died. Was that like his last?
Well, he was never on fentanyl ever. He was just on heroin. He was never on fentanyl. The fentanyl was in his last time, and that's what killed him. Yes, he was totally off everything. He was off everything and doing great. And, but I know from past experiences, every time he got out of a program or a rehab, he would just go right back and use as soon as you gave him a little money. And he even said, money is a trigger for me. Well, Bryant, you have to get away from that, because your whole life is going to be money. Like, you got to be able to deal with money and have money in your hand and be able to function. You can't just say, here's money, there's a trigger, I got to go use,
Right, yes.
So that was a hard trigger to deal with.
Yeah, because then you're afraid to give him money. I mean,
and how do you're afraid to let him get a job. I mean, so many times we fought with him not to get a job, that we would try our best to support him because we didn't think he was ready. We didn't want him to get it. Oh, no, it's good for me. It'll keep me busy. And then I think, how am I if I'm not busy? I'm always like, I got to be busy, or otherwise, if I just sit around and think all day, you got these kids who are addicts. Okay, so you're home now. You're on your meds. You're sitting home alone because you don't have money to do anything. You can't go anywhere. How depressing is that? And how, you know what I mean? How is that going to heal you? So it's like they got to get back in society. But today, unfortunately, most of the things in society, unless you love nature like me, is money costing. Like, you got to have money to do things.
That's true.
Especially the younger generation. I mean, they were raised with that. We were spoiling them with money, buying them this, taking them there, giving, you know what I mean? It's different. Like when I was growing up, we weren't poor, but we were, blue collar on the lower side. Like it wasn't always easy for us. It was a lot of struggles, but, we didn't get everything we wanted. I mean, Christmas, was good and stuff like that, but my mother had to sew my clothes a lot of times. I got hand-me-downs from my brothers. It was not, just give them whatever you want, whatever they want. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, my parents told me from the get-go, you want a car, you work and pay for it. We're not paying your car insurance. You pay for it. So nothing, I didn't have anything handed to me on a silver platter.
My kids, we made them work too. Like we didn't hand them everything when they got to be that age. We, encouraged them to work. They both worked young ages. I mean, my son was like 14, I think, and Cambry was 15 when she got a job actually as a assistant for her orthodontist. So, they both worked young. And they always continued to work, which, I always gave them credit for that. But, of course, the addiction interfered with that a lot of times. And I don't want to get into Cambry's stuff. They can read her story if they want and hear more about that.
Yes, yes. What advice, Barbara, would you give parents if they know their child is addicted to drugs? Or has a mental health issue like bipolar or, depression? What advice would you give to a parent that you wish you knew?
Well, I don't know how much different it is today. I mean, what advice do? You go to doctors, you find all the help you can get them, you find reputable rehabs that you can afford or that their insurance will take. You just... The advice I would give is not to give up on them because so many people just poo-poo their kids. They're no good. They're an addict. I'm not bothering with them anymore. Okay, they steal from you. They do bad things. You don't have to have them live with you if you're not comfortable with that, but you should never lose contact with them. And pretty much that's the advice I would give. And, I mean, keep fighting to have that, ability to have a say-so in their lives. I mean, I don't know what the heck's going on now with that, if there's actually a change in the law or any kind of groups that are fighting for that, but that would be like a wonderful thing for them to include parents in their, if they're addicted, include the parents. So maybe this is not more advice for the parents, but more advice for the authorities to allow that,
Yes, they should be telling you. It almost, well, not that it's like it, but when Matt was showing signs of dementia at work, they didn't tell me. And when I sat in on this disability meeting, I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call and tell me? And the HR person said, we can't because of HIPAA laws. Matt could have sued us. I said, why didn't you ask him?
They need to change the HIPAA laws then.
Yes, Barbara, they do. And I said, you mean
wake up, people?
You'd rather
people are dying.
Yeah, literally, they're dying. I mean, would you rather someone be on? They're not safe. So, would you rather them be unsafe, or would you rather break a law? Yeah. I mean, all they would have had to do was sort of ask Matt. So It's dangerous. They really should have some kind of a clause in these HIPAA laws that under certain circumstances, the families should be notified.
That's
in your
right.
situation, and my situation, so many other situations. And
to me, if they're an addict, they're incapable. You should be able, like a parent or a close relative, whoever. I mean, all right, maybe, there are some parents or whatever that just want to take over their kids' money, or their, if they're adults and they have money or whatever. There could be some evil people out there that just want to take over that power so they can have their money, or or just be like a control freak over them. But no, just give them a say-so. Maybe not give them access to all that other stuff unless they fight for it through a lawyer for a certain reason. But just give them access to hear you, for them to hear you, and for you to hear them and what's going on with their kid or their loved one, that's struggling like you with Matt. Like, keep it open.
Right. What kind of child was Bryant before the drug addiction?
Before the drug addiction, all right, I would say up until he was 16, I guess. Oh, my God. He was like, I used to always say, people would be complaining about their teenage sons or whatever, and, they're not cleaning their room, and they don't want nothing to do with me, they're shutting the door. And Bryant would come in my room and lay on my bed next to me and tell me all about his day. And he would do this every friggin' day. And I was just like in awe, and I was so appreciative of it, because I was like, this kid loves me so much and trusts me so much that he just comes home and tells me all about his day every day and loves to be near me and just, blurt it all out. And, then after that, I guess the hormone stuff or whatever, he kind of didn't do that all the time. But when he was like 21, 22, I guess, same with her. It was around that age, like 21, 22, when they started with the bipolar crap, I guess, and the anxiety and depression, and things changed.
I want people to know, Barbara, and I can't say this enough, that mental illness can happen to anyone from any family, from the rich,
right.
ultra rich. Look at ultra rich people who have mental illness.
Robin
even down
Williams,
to the poor
one of my
people.
favorites.
Yes, Kate Spade.
Yep.
That cook, I think his last name was Bourdain. Is it Anthony Bourdain?
Mm-hmm.
And they had children. And, money can't buy happiness. And
Nope.
It's really up to that person to fix themselves. So when people look down on parents to say, well, why didn't, it's almost like they're accusing you of not fixing your child. We can't fix. There's certain things we can't fix, people. We can't fix someone's brain. We just can't. It's up to that
I hope to God
person.
they find a lab test to figure out all this stuff. And, they got to have like some kind of bipolar is a chemical imbalance. Well, where's the lab test for it? They've been trying to do it for years. I've been trying to research to find out if there is one. I don't see anything. And if there is, I don't find it. But there's got to be like a lab test that says, hey, this chemical is off or that chemical is off. Well, let's create something to fix that. With everything, with every disease, they find it for, cancer and different things. Why can't you find it for these mental health issues?
Exactly. And then you wonder, like I tell the audience just like what I'm thinking. You wonder if it's dormant, and then when they hit their adolescence or early 20s, is there something in puberty that just sparks it, like just lights it up? They say that, like with Alzheimer's, dementia, that there's changes in the brain. It can happen 10 to 20 years before. So
Wow.
I wonder, is that the same with mental illness? Or are there changes that are occurring that doctors don't know about? Because I just thought of that. You just really wonder about it. People, do struggle with depression, and some people, all it takes is that taking that one pill.
Yeah.
And that's why, folks, I'm going to say it over and over again, stop the judgment, stop the stigma. I had a woman tell me recently, she said, Betsy, my daughter asked me to take her for help. I said, that's good. That's very good. She said, but I feel guilty that I did something wrong, that she needs help. And I said, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Be very lucky that she's coming to you for help, that she trusts you to tell you this, and that you are taking her for help. And I said, and if that doesn't work where she's going, I recommended a place in New Jersey. I said, you could try this place. And I said, now's the time to take your daughter. She's 12 years old. I said, because when she's 18, they don't have to tell you what's going on. So you're very smart in taking her now at the age of 12. So I encourage people all the time, if you have a mental health crisis, please seek help. Go to your healthcare provider. Don't be ashamed. There's no shame in needing help at all. No. There used to be back when I was a teenager, but there is not now. Wow. So you could contact your healthcare provider. I think the number 211, you can call for resources. There is help out there. And I'd like to know, Barbara, with Bryant's book, Bryant's story, the proceeds, are you donating that to any organization like you did with Cambry's?
Yes. drugsfreenewjersey.org for Bryant, and also the Popcorn Zoo again, because like I said, they both were big animal lovers, and we took them to that zoo a lot when they were kids, and it's a rescue zoo. And, I just figured that would be a good one, too. So.
And it's down in Cape May, right? Cape May, New Jersey?
No. It's right over here. I think it's Bayville. I'm not even sure the town. It's probably considered Manchester, but yeah, it's like 10 minutes from Tom's River.
Oh, okay, but it is in New Jersey. So, folks, Barbara's not making.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I thought it was in Cape May for some reason.
The Humane Society runs it, so the donations go to the Humane Society for the Popcorn Zoo. Well, it's actually called the Popcorn Zoo, Popcorn Park, I think. I don't know. There's so many different names, whatever. It's Popcorn Park Zoo, and it's through the Humane Society. But, I don't do direct book donations. I don't even know how to get involved with all that. All I do is, to be honest with you, their books were, hers was $2.99, hers is $3.99. The time you pay the fees, it cost me like $300 each to have them, made, because I went the professional route. I didn't want to take any chances on their stories. So really, the money I make doesn't even meet the amount that I paid for it. But it's just the idea, that I'm getting the word out, and I don't keep any of the money. I'm not even keeping the money that, cost me to make the book. Whatever money I get, I just send it on their anniversaries. It's either their birth date or their death anniversary. And since his two are so close, I'm just going to send it on his birthday. But for her, I send the monies in on her birthday and her death date. But, it's been out there a while now, so of course it's sizzling down, so it probably would just be one date. Whatever, I just write a check.
Yeah, you don't keep any of the money. That's what I want the audience to know. You were donating the
Yeah,
proceeds.
I don't get anything. I don't get a dime. And actually cost me money, but I'm not worried about money. The whole idea is not about money or making money off my kids or any of that. The whole idea is to get the word out, and maybe if their books help somebody along the way, then I'm happy, my angels above are happy, and that's the whole thing. And, you know, the organizations are not getting a ton of money off of these books. The only thing is, you know, it comes from my kids, so every little bit helps.
Right, right. And how old was Bryant when he passed?
Bryant was 28. It was
28, that's what I thought.
It's 2 days before his 29th birthday.
Wow. I thought he was 28. And I love in the book how you talk about you have connections with Bryant as well as Cambry and, you know, the Cardinals and
Cardinals are an everyday thing. That's the regular thing.
I don't see any where I live. I said, Matt, come to me as a Cardinal or Robin. I don't see any.
Well, it doesn't have to be a Cardinal. You know, people think, because there's so much publicity out there about, Cardinals are from the Angels. All right, they are from the Angels, but they can be any bird or any animal that you think might have. The thing is, if you feel the sign and you feel it's from them, then that's what it's from. My daughter, she comes as a catbird sometimes. She comes as a female cardinal. She comes as a love dove. She would never come as a butterfly because she hated butterflies. She was afraid of them. So it's so funny because there's a lot of the things for suicide, you know, there's butterflies on her shirt I got. And I'm like, well, I think it's okay now because once you're an angel, I don't think you have a fear of butterflies anymore. You appreciate all nature. But, yeah, Bryant, he comes sometimes as a butterfly. I mean, his book is full of the afterlife, you know, signs that I've gotten from him. There's just so many. And he actually connected, you know, through a little TV that we have also, and gave us a message about, we figured it out that his best friend had a baby, his wife had a baby, and he communicated us that, and then it showed up on my phone, and I was like, oh, Eric's wife had a baby, and that was his best friend. And, well, I might as well just say it all now that I'm talking about it. But I have a little DVD player, and it's not hooked up to cable or anything. You know, it's just for playing DVDs. But all of a sudden it went on its own, and it was all staticky. And I recorded it, and when I played back the recording, it was like you could hear a male voice saying, guess what? Guess what? And it was like repeating when I was listening to it. And I was like, what the hell is that? You know, is that Bryant trying to give me a message? And then I put my phone on, and there was a picture or you know, a thing from a post from his friend about having the baby. And I was like, oh, wow. My God, that's Bryant telling me that, Eric, guess what? Eric had a baby. Well, his wife had a baby.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's just one of them. But, I mean, you have to feel them, and you have to connect everything. Like, everything isn't perfectly clear. But if you're tuned into your kids and your signs, or I shouldn't always say kids because it's not always kids. There's, you know, other loved ones like your husband or whatever. If you're connected to your loved one and their signs, and actually the best way is to raise your vibration to have better connectivity, which I do all the time. And a lot of the things I did, I didn't even know they were steps to raise my vibration. I just automatically did them. And then when I researched it, I was like, oh my God, I do all this. So it's just weird how it all comes together sometimes.
Yes. And I do believe in connections. Barbara, thank you for coming on Chatting with Betsy.
Thank you, Beth.
I enjoyed chatting with you. And I just want to tell the audience, go on Amazon.com. It is an e-book. Barbara has 2 books on there. One is Cambry's story about her daughter, and the other one we're talking about Bryant today. Bryant's story, my son's life story, his struggles, his death by heroin, fentanyl, and his amazing connection after. Please get these books. And I just want to thank you, Barbara, for being an inspiration. You are inspiring every day when I read your Facebook page. You always offer some great advice. You're welcome.
Thank you, Betsy.
And, thank you. Thank you for, I know it takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of guts to write books, to go back to painful memories and to talk about them. So I thank you for doing that. And thank you for helping others, because you don't know how far your ripples will travel. You really don't.
Right.
And, you've got the word out. I told Barbara, after she wrote Cambry's story, come on my show. And after you wrote Bryant's story, to come on my show. And I just doing my part because I felt that Bryant connected us. And I remember Cambry came to me in a dream. And I told you that you have to come on my show. Cambry came to me in a dream. And she looked beautiful, actually, in my dream. And I just knew that we were meant to share Bryant and Cambry's story. So thank you for sharing their story.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We'll be
and
in
give
touch.
My regards to your husband. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank
you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks so much.
See you on
Thank
Facebook,
you,
honey.
See you on Facebook. Oh, you're so funny. See you on Facebook, Barbara.
Okay,
take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Folks, thank you for listening, and I highly recommend going to purchase these books, and please don't judge. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Please share to help someone else. Chatting with Betsy is about helping other people. And I want to thank Jeannie White, who is station manager of Passion World Talk Radio, who produces the show and writes the blog. Information will be in there about the books. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And folks, thank you again for listening. And in a world where you can be anything, please be kind, shine your light bright, and remember, it is okay not to be okay. It is okay to seek help. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. Call your healthcare provider. Call 211 to get resources. There is help out there for you. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye now.
Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are 2 women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager, at THECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com, every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the Internet.